No.
I officially take the story Kim's Castle. My name is Harry, and I'll be your guide. The tour is going to take us about 45 minutes, and throughout this 45 minutes, we shall consider the male slave danger, the female slave danger, and then still, punishment said, the courtyard of the castle, the door of no return, the door of return. And then from there, we shall move upstairs, see the Palama Hall, where buying and selling of human beings took place. From there, we finally bring the guided tour to an end. Before we begin with the tour of the castle, I'm going to give you a brief history about the castles we have in Ghana and the transatlantic slave trade on the west coast of Africa. Basically, in Ghana, there are three castles dotted along the coast of Ghana. We have St. George's Castle in Elmina, built by the Portuguese in 1482. It is the largest and the biggest European trading post in sub-Saharan Africa. We have the second one in Accra, that is the Christiansborg Castle, built by the Danes in 1661. That is the second largest castle we have here. And then finally, we have Cape Coast Castle, built by the British in 1664. So Cape Coast Castle, where we are at the moment, this is the smallest among the three. Now this very castle, it was once built as a fort, known as the Carilosberg Fort, by the Swedish in 1653. The fort changed hands severally between the Swedish against the Dutch until the British captured it in 1664. It was the British who developed the fort into a castle it was as we see today. So Cape Coast Castle, as it exists today, it was built over a period of 300 years. It wasn't built at a go, it was rather built in stages before the whole edifice was fully completed. Now the land on which the Cape Coast Castle sits on now, the land itself, it has been occupied by different European nations. The Portuguese were the first Europeans to have settled on this very piece of land. From there, the Swedish, the Danes, the Dutch, and then the British. So the British were the last Europeans to have settled on this very piece of land. Now, however, slavery in one way or the other, it has been with man since time immemorial. For that reason, we Africans, we understood the concept of slavery before the arrival of the Europeans. It is because we as Africans were practicing some sort of slavery in Africa before the arrival of the Europeans. But in our system of slavery here, it was quite different from what the Europeans introduced. Now the system that existed here, it was very difficult to even refer to someone as a slave. We normally refer to these people as servants because these people in most cases had rights. They could give birth, acquire property, and became free people after settling their debt. And so within a society setting, it was very difficult to even identify a slave from a free man because they were all fed, sheltered, did everything equally within the society. Another uniqueness of the idea of slavery in our culture was that when a slave proved to have a managerial ability or has a military skills, such fellow will become the caretaker of his master's household. Descendants of such became royals. When a slave woman marries into the system, she ceases to be a slave and had a royal descendant. This was a kind of slavery we were practicing here before the Portuguese got here with the supposed idea to barter trade in gold and ivory. Now, why am I even saying with a supposed idea? It is because long before these castles were built, the Portuguese were already trafficking Africans as slaves to Europe, long before these castles were built. The very first time was in 1441, which was led by a man they called Antonio Gonzalez. He took 12 boys from Senegal and Gambia to Portugal. Now, upon reaching Portugal, the prince was happy for only two reasons. One, they could educate these boys to serve as interpreters between them and Africans when they returned back to Africa to trade. Two, they will help these boys to become clergymen. When they returned back to Africa, these boys will spread the gospel. And these 12 boys never came back as it was planned or intended. So from 1441, no European nation came to West Africa without taking Africans as slaves. They were basically capturing Africans as slaves 30 years before the Portuguese got to this part of the coast in 1471. 11 years later, the Elmina castle, being the biggest castle in the whole of West Africa itself, was built. That is how come I said with a supposed idea, because you look at see they already had their plans and intentions very clearly. It was once again also suggested to we Africans that Africans taken as slaves to Europe, it was helping us to become Christians, thereby saving our souls from going to hell. But everything changed when the Spaniards got to what they call the New World. Now, upon reaching the New World, gold and silver mines were opened, sugar, tobacco, cotton plantations were established. Now, in as much they wanted the riches from the New World, they were never prepared to do the hard labor. They subjected the natives to do the hard labor. Now, due to European diseases such as measles, influenza, smallpox, many of these natives were not surviving. There was a need for them to look for an alternative. One Catholic missionary by name Bartholomew de las Cascas, he had sympathy on the natives and suggested that Africans should be used as substitute. Now he made that recommendation on the fact that he said Africans, they were doing the same way under similar climatic condition in Africa, and also Africans, they have the enough strength to be able to work in these farms. Now, based on this simple reason, Africans should be used as substitute. Somewhere around 1512, they took a couple of black people from Spain to Hispaniola, that is present-day Dominican Republic. Others also says they were taken to Santo Domingo, that is present-day Haiti. That is where these enslaved Africans were first tested on the plantations. And true to Bartholomew de las Cascas' claim, each and every one of them proved to be physically strong, which made the demand for black people rise. And this will become the unfortunate story of misery and pain, the forced exit of Africans from their motherland to the world known, which is today known as a transatlantic slave trade. Now the trade itself, it wasn't in Ghana only, the whole of West Africa, from wherever these enslaved Africans were captured across West Africa, they would have to walk barefooted to the castles. Before they were brought down to the castles, they were first of all taken to Assam Manson slave market. That is where these enslaved Africans took their last African bath. Meaning within this very castle, nobody took his or a bath within this very castle. The slave market is about 75 kilometers away from here. So basically, when you are traveling from Cape Coast to Kumasi, there is a village along the way called Assam Mansu. It is within that village you can locate a river they call the Oche River. That is where the captives took their final bath. And the whole concept about the slave market was that it was because they could walk several miles before getting to the river. Many of them were tired, others were dirty. There was a need for them to allow them to take their bath, shave them, apply pomade on them, just for the old to appear younger in order to attract higher prices when they finally get to the castle. From the slave market, others were brought in here, others will be taken to the Elmina castle, it all depends on who went there to buy who. If it is a British, they move down to this castle. If it is a Portuguese, they continue the journey to the Elmina castle. Now, just within the castle, the captives were being branded with branding irons. Why were they being branded in the first place? It is because they had different slave companies buying the captives. These companies wanted to identify whoever they were going to be bought. We had companies like Liverpool, Manchester, Barclays, Bank of Amsterdam, Lloyd's of London. These were famous companies involved in the trade. Now, these companies introduced branding irons. A branding iron, it is just a metal, but then on top of the metal, the slave company has its name, or probably has a company's logo on top of the metal. So all they need to do is to insert the metal stick into fire to get very hot. Now, once they pick the stick from the fire, they place it straight on their chest, at their arm, or at their back for easy identification. The branding alone was even enough to kill them. After the branding has been done, they were then separated. The men were kept inside the male dungeon, while the women were also kept inside the female slave dungeon. But why in the dungeons in the first place? The dungeons only served as a waiting room or a transit point. They need to stay within the dungeons from 2 weeks to 3 months, depending on when the slave ships will get to the coast. Now, once the slave ship gets to the coast, they would have to transport all the captives to the Americas and the Caribbeans, to the lives of Jamaica, Brazil, Argentina, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, Haiti, Suriname, New York, Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and so many other places in the Americas. Now, over there, they had to auction the captives, sell them out to plantation owners for them to work in their newfound plantations. In 1807, the British passed a law to abolish the slave trade within their territories. But those of the British inside this very edifice refused to end the trade in 1807. They rather continued with the trade till 1833 before it finally ended here. The trade lasted for more than 400 years, more than 4 centuries. So please, I'm going to pause for a while. If there are questions you'd love to ask, please, you can do so before we begin with them. Those who just join us, please, you're all welcome. Any questions?
What were the fort, like in Qatar they have the fort, and so what, that was not a slave castle, right?
So basically we have castles and we have forts. Castles are bigger than forts,
Okay.
but they all serve the same purpose.
Okay.
Any questions?
I have another one. In Salaga, they had the Salaga market there, slave castle in Salaga. But they didn't have a dungeon or a slave castle, it's just a marketplace?
There was just an open market where
They were walking
captives.
the north down to the south.
So that's what it took them.
So no, okay, Salaga is the biggest slave market. But apart from Salaga, there are several other slave markets also scattered all over.
Yeah, it's on the water. Thank you.
So I've just got one question. Did the slaves that they captured, did any of them escape to come back?
No, so within the castle, nobody was able to escape.
Not
It
at all.
wasn't possible.
But on the journey, did some escape?
On the journey, it is once again very difficult to tell, because besides they were still in chains, they were being tied by ropes.
Oh,
Those
so-
of them who died on the way to the castle, those of them they felt they were very too weak to continue the journey. They just have to abandon them somewhere and they didn't go ahead.
So what about when they get to their destination? Is there any records of people escaping when they get to their destination?
Yes, in their final destination, there are people who try to escape from the various plantation farms. Others were very successful to escape.
And come back to Africa?
No, not to Africa.
Right, okay, they escape,
When
but
was-
that's what
was
I'm
it-
saying, if they can find their way back to the homeland.
No, it
Right,
wasn't.
okay.
But back in those days, the only mode of transportation was through the ocean. We didn't have the ships to return back. All right, so let's begin the tour from this side. This is a cell as it is clearly written on top. It is not an ordinary cell, but a condemned cell. Now, it looked as if the punishment given to the men within the male dungeon, it wasn't enough. They still went ahead to create a condemned cell. Enslaved African men who fought for their freedom while in the castle, they were seen to be stubborn, aggressive, rebellious. They were all locked up in here. Nobody went through the side and came back alive. Less than 72 hours in here, nobody's going to survive within this very cell. Very soon we'll move in and I'll explain to you why. But before we do so, of all the fittings, of all the doors inside this very edifice, this door is the only original door left inside the castle now. A little above 2 centuries. It is made with pitch pine timber from the front. At the back, it has been covered with copper. And so if this door on top, it could tell us more about the condemned cell. All right, so please let's see what is in here. Please keep your head down while you come. Please watch your head.
Oh, you been here before?
Oh, okay. What, the charge?
Yeah.
All right, so courtyard of the castle, of the graveyard, of the castle. A whole lot of people have been buried within this very courtyard of the castle. Now, during the excavation works in 1974, only 4 of them were able to identify. The very first one separated from the 3. The only African buried. Reverend Philip Park was born in
How do you turn the camera down? Just because it's facing me. Oh, okay, okay.
The first one up here, an army commander by name C.B. Whitehead. C.B. Whitehead died in April. Cause of death was unknown. We cannot tell what exactly killed C.B. Whitehead. Now, however, back in those days,
My brothers.
to be the white man's grave because of mosquito parasite. Many Europeans that came in here find it very difficult to survive. And then the third one at its extreme end, that is Captain George McLean. McLean was a Scottish born on 24th February 1801. He was appointed as a governor in 1830. Now within this very castle, there is an underground passage which is connecting the building to the door of no return. So when the slave ships are in for them to move, the men will start to use the main entrance of the building. They would have to go to the underground passage Yes, finally establishing the first English and the whole idea behind the whole was to settle disputes among the local people when they trade and they trade. And that doesn't mean that we as Africans we never had a McLean died in 1927. The door opened up there with a sign, McLean's Hall. That is where McLean established the first English court of justice. The last one in the middle, a lady by name Letitia Elizabeth Lemon. That is Captain McLean's wife. Letitia traveled all the way to England to this castle in 1838. That's it. A few months or less than 2 months after she moved here. She was found dead holding the body. Nobody knew what exactly. But most gossips in the town have said that when you come here, you realize they are having an African mistress by name Elmina out of jealousy as a situation. That is the south. Others also believe that Elmina, that is a mistress, she likes to take people who herself to be a servant in the castle. She later conspired with McLean together working with him. But as I speak to you now, we expect to not know what exactly happened. But the fact that she was found dead, she was holding a bottle either that she was poisoned by someone, she decided to poison herself. She died in 1813. Yes, any questions about this topic? Okay, so I think it's our time to see the building. We did a great African building. Not move, not pass it. All right, so that is the main danger. We'll be moving down 3 steps down. The floor slopes in here. It's a bit slippery. Please let us take our time while we descend down. Please come with me. Worshiping God, singing praises to God. Just right today. And there's dangers, dying, suffering. But the big question we need to ask ourselves is that why should we even build a church for a slave danger? Now, right in front of the church, there's an open space just right in front of the church. This space right in front of the church, this space is the mill engine. So whenever there are church services going on up here, the people in the church could still hear the noise, the screaming, the crying that was coming from the engine through the space. But yet, nobody really cares about it. And mind you, it's not only in this castle they had a church about engine. All the 14 castles built across West Africa, they all had churches about engines. But today, it is being used as children's library. They allow kids to come in here during the weekends to study. that the purpose now. Alright, so let's continue up here. Let's see more on the side. As a matter of fact, the children were held together with the women. The children, there were very few of them because nobody went out to capture children. They only got children as a result of what the whole family is being captured. In that case, everyone is still alive. Apart from that, nobody went out there because to capture children.
So make a quick word, tell me, like, how you feeling about all this?
Man, a lot. Yeah, it's a lot, man. But you know, while I'm here, I can feel the ancestors with me. You know what I'm saying? The smell in the dungeon. You can, what I'm saying, smell. Basically
Yeah,
like
residue.
the residue.
Uh-huh.
What happened? Yeah, I smelled it. I was like, but yeah, man. Yes. It's real evil, man. Like, I'm trying to keep going. I know.
Alright, so this is where the governor was living. Nothing important here for us to see, but we just want to compare the difference between this side and then the dungeon. Only one person occupied the side. From the main entrance to the hall to the bedroom, the governor had 16 wings. Now please look at the sizes of the wings for one person. 1,000 men dying and suffering in the dungeons. So these are the differences we want to compare so we understand what the captives went through. Even as we stand up here now, you can still feel the sea breeze coming up here. These are the differences we are looking out for. That is the living room, where the bedroom is with. Shall we walk this way?
If you are to compare the living room to the dungeon,
Yes,
this
let
can
us
speak at this point.
now our capacity is our condition. Yes. That's a fort. A fort just right above the fort.
Oh, okay.
The British built Fort William, Fort Victoria, served as a watching town for the castle. Whenever there are attacking the castle, whether by land or by sea, the soldiers up here will be the first people to see them. They will then have to communicate to the soldiers in here for them to get prepared. They were using symbols and an object in communication. For example, in the morning, if they want to communicate, all they need to do is to wave a red flag in the morning as a sign of communication. In the afternoon, they use mirror. They turn the surface of the mirror towards the sun. They get a reflection down here. And then in the evening, they use torchlight. That was the only place you could find flashlight as a baby. And so in Cape Coast here, this is one of the highest points in the town. If you are up there, you can have a fair idea how Cape Coast looks like. But the primary purpose of this very fort is to protect this very castle. Any question, please?
So if I live in any renovation where it's on the floor,
Yes, all the wooden works within the castle are not original. The floor, the door, the ceiling, they are all not original, but the walls are in its original state.
So the fort, what do they still use it for today?
They are working in there, so it's not concept.
Like our indigenous people are working in there. Our indigenous people are working in there. It's for the government.
For the government.
Okay.
All right, so let's see the auction block. Let's see where buying and selling of human beings took place. Please see it.
Excuse me.
All right, so the whole of this area is known as a halal hall. This is where basically buying and selling of human beings to beings. And before anybody at all will take it into the thing, the person will first of all have to do an appeal for European doctors and nurses to determine how physically strong they were. Now those of them who were physically strong, they were the ones bought and taken into the danger. But those of them who were not trained to be strong enough to be bought, whoever brought them into here is to take them back. Now these middlemen during these transactions, they were not willing to do so. They moved a bit inland, they abandoned them on the way, and they continued with the journey. And so even if you are not bought from this side, there is still the possibility that you will still not survive while you are left eaten up by an animal. So the whole of this area was an auction block for the British. This is where they basically determined who to buy and who not to buy. Any questions? All right, so going back down, let's see how big the underground passage is. So it's like from there, we'll head straight towards the field. Let's see how big the passage looks like. Let's go.
the gun party. Yeah. What do we do for the gun parties? As the chief is yes, as the chief is speaking, you just translate them into English and put it in words. Yes. Okay. Okay. You. Okay. Enemy, Bama, you Wahana, Wayama. We send it to you.
Yeah. They were speaking a lot of God at the beginning, as they should. Yeah, so he can translate. Oh, they were just here.
All right, so like I said earlier, the underground passage has been blocked. We can't make our way through the passage. But from where we have the shrine, that is the entrance to the tunnel. There's an open space right over here, served as an observatory. A soldier needs to be out here with a gun. All he does is to make sure everyone is into the ship. So from here, you see the end of the tunnel. But please remember, nobody entered the tunnel from this side. Nobody came up from this side. The only way one could enter into this tunnel was from the middle dungeon. That's the only entrance to the passage. Now please, you can have a look at it, but just be careful, there is no stairs in there. It's about 13 feet down. Please be careful, you don't fall. Hold your gadgets very firmly.
Oh, is that it?
You would have just please be careful if you want to have a look at it. 13 feet down.
30 meters. I thought he said 13.
Please be careful if you want to have a look at it.
Yeah, I was just like making sure.
Dang, yeah, that's deep. Yeah, it's deep. Excuse me.
Yes.
Where you from? The UK?
London,
London.
but my parents are from Ghana.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's
I
why
love
we're
that.
here.
I love that accent.
Oh,
yeah.
thank you. Vice versa.
All right, so that is the end of the tunnel. It has been blocked from the exit as well. So all the men will have to walk into the gate to this point. And please, this is the last place that is where the women were picked. Those who walk in that place, they join the men in here. This side become the final exit into the ships. But sometimes the wind from the ocean is sometimes the door. So this side is blocked off. After this side is blocked off, that is when we created the door of the mold tent, where nobody will see here down there is the door of the mold tent. Very soon
Excuse me.
This is a cell. It's a punishment cell for enslaved African women. Now, Europeans that left Europe to trade in Africa, they never came to Africa for wives. They came here alone. For that reason, they were abusing and enslaved African women sexually. Those of the women who resisted rape and officials, they were beaten up severely and later locked in here for of things. A very huge metal plate on the side. Food and water was empty on the side. There is an open space in here. That is where they had to defecate and urinate. Those of the women who resisted rape from officials were the ones kept in here 7 to 10 days before later they were released back into the dungeon. And the whole idea behind this cell was just to frustrate the women. So whenever they wanted to argue, easily come on. Please, you can have a look at it if you want to do it.
Excuse me.
Share with our ancestors. They say that the build from here to North Carolina. And share must come to share all this info. That was one of the reasons why President Obama came in the lives. They did the same. Ships. This time,
Excuse me.
build to welcome the ship. So this is a part in this war. Alright, so this side is the female slave engine. The women have 2 separate chambers. This side is the very first chamber, where the second chamber just opposite us. Each chamber held 150 women, together with their children in here. They were also not allowed to move outside. They defecated, urinated, vomited. They had their menstruation in here. They sat and slept around their own mess. The 3 spaces up here was their only source of light and ventilation. Now please, do you remember in the male dungeon, I made mention of a drainage underground that carries away the liquid waste. But over in here, there is nothing like a drainage. Now after defecating, urinating, doing all sort of things in here, whenever it rains and it happens that the rainwater has to come in here, the rainwater comes into the dungeon, mixed up with the already mess in here, they will still have to sit in a mess. Now those of the women who were found pregnant in the dungeon as a result of officials in the castle abusing them, the British had stone houses within the community. So that is where these pregnant women were taken to. Now 3 months after delivery, oftentimes there were 2 things that was involved. Now whoever impregnated her, if he decides he wants to be with her, in that case, she was considered to be a free person. She would be taken from the dungeon into the stone houses. But whoever impregnated her, on the other hand, refuses to be with her. Officials in the castle will then have to take the baby. The woman will be brought in here back again. And besides, they had a church, they had a school within the castle. So these kids were being trained by officials. They grew up, they moved into the community, others settled within the community, others also got married to the indigenous people in the town. It is a more reason why when we travel to, I don't know how long you've been in Cape Coast here, but when we travel to Cape Coast here, there are a whole lot of English names in the town. It is a thing who were not fortunate, but rather found pregnant while crossing the Atlantic Ocean or in other words, pregnant women on board the slave ships will be thrown into the ocean alive.
Dang.
This is the door of no return, final exit for enslaved Africans. So from this point, all hopes were lost. Enslaved Africans who went through this door lost contact with Africa. They lost their names, they lost their identity while they went through this door. But the door itself, it wasn't big as we see now. It was very short and very narrow, designed in such a way that only one person could move at a time. So whenever you get the opportunity to visit the Elmina Castle, you will see the original door of no return. Very, very short, very narrow. Now please remember, not everyone who went through this door survived or made a journey successfully. Enslaved Africans who went through this door never had an idea as to where they were taking them to. Some of them voluntarily decided to jump overboard into the ocean so as to prevent themselves from going to their own destination. Now please remember, they were chained together. If one person decides to jump overboard, then it means he's going to pull a whole lot of people into the ocean. Those of them who were found sick and weak, they were likewise thrown offboard. Now, whenever the slave ships becomes overloaded, there was a need for them to ensure that these slave ships become stable on the ocean. Now, instead of them to offload items in the ships into the ocean, no, rather they will offload Africans into the ocean. The worst part of the journey was the middle passage, where human beings were made to lie side by side, unable to move or sit up, hands and legs in chains and shackles, human beings defecating and vomiting. One could not even get their own hands to even clean their mouth. It was not unusual to wake up, see the person chained next to you dead, sometimes decomposed. And so progressively in the life of a captive, it never got better for them. It only got worse as the day passes by. But I'm going to open up the door. Please let us step out here. Let's see what's beyond this very door. Please, because of the noise out here, let us try and stay together. From this very point, all the captives will then have to move out here. Now, once they move out here, they would have to descend the stairs to the shore. If not for the stones being arranged this way, the ocean used to come very closer. But it was still shallow from this side. Bigger ships would have to go 70 to 100 meters away from this side. They convey the captives from the smaller point to the bigger ones, and the journey continues from there. The journey from here to the Americas took them 2 to 5 months before they could finally reach their destination. The floating casket the Europeans refers to as ships had names like Jesus, Glory of Africa, God is able, Brotherhood, Liberty, Hope. These were names for slave ships. chiefs. But today, this side, it's a fishing community now. A fishing community for the indigenous people in the town. But let's have a look on top of the door. Make sure you see. All right, so the same door, it has been named as the door of restraint. 1998, for the very first time, Ghana celebrated Emancipation Day. The bones of two enslaved Africans were brought from New York and Jamaica, representing the people of diaspora. That is Samuel Carson and Madam Krista. The bones, the two bones is basically representing millions of Africans who left Africa and never returned back home. The bones were brought down to Accra. Now, when you are traveling from Accra to Cape Coast, there is a village along the way called Abanze where you can locate Fort Amsterdam just up on the hill. Now, from Accra to Abanze, you travel by road. But from Abanze to this part of the castle, all the decided not to travel by road again. If they are coming to the castle, they need to get here on the road.
It's okay.
Please, sorry for the interruption. So as I was saying, from Accra to Abanze, they traveled by road. But from Abanze to this part of the castle, all the people decided not to travel by road. If they are coming to the castle, they need to get here through that mountain bridge. Why is the bridge? It's because the ancestors were taken to the Americas through that bridge. If the descendants of the ancestors are returning back home, there is a need for them to also use the ocean. Now, just right in front of the door, a very short but very impressive ceremony was done just right in front of the door. And after the ceremony, the two moons were ushered through the door of a return. That ceremony was very symbolic. The meaning of that ceremony means the chains has been broken. And for that matter, our brothers and sisters in the diaspora should now return back home. And let us not forget, the Black Americans, they are not white people, they are not from America, they are all from Africa. It is because of the injustice that occurred in here. That is how today they find themselves in the Americas and the Caribbean. The law of return is to bring back home our brothers and sisters who left this very shores 400 years ago and never returned back again. We are asking them to return back home now, for there is no place their home. So later the two mortal remains were reburied at St. Manson slave markets where the captives took the last African back. So the door of return we see out there, the whole idea is to welcome our brothers and sisters back to the motherland. So on this note, I want to say Akabo to anybody who is returning back to the motherland again. I say Akabo to you all.
Mendasi.
Please let us all come together. All right, so we're about to end the tour now. Before then, if there's any final question anybody wants to ask, you can do so before we end the tour. Any final questions? All right, so we're about to end the tour now. But before we do so, the big question we all need to ask ourselves is that the dungeons are empty. The cells are also empty now. Nobody's in the dungeon, nobody's in the cell now. But still, the big question lies that is slavery over? slavery is not over. It is still going on in different ways, in different forms. But please, as we come here today to learn about this history, let us not go back home. Let us educate our families, our friends about what we've learned today. For whatever that occurred within this very castle, there is nothing any of us can do to change the past. But it is for us as individuals to pick lessons out of it. Moving into the future, we all can chill, it never happens again. This history is not told for others to feel bad, neither is told for others to feel happy. The only reason we keep repeating this history is for each and every one of us to pick lessons out of it. Moving into the future, we all ensure it never really occurs in any way or in any form again. Together, we all can make the world a better place, irrespective of our skin color. Let us in our own small way ensure the world becomes a better, a safer place. And I know together we can all make the world a better, and safer place. So this is where we end our guided tour of the castle. I wish you all safe journey back home. Till we meet some other day, some other time. Thank you very much for coming. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you.